Okay, welcome to another Ginger Mathematician video. So this is going to be my probably 2 or 3 part series on solving equations. So I will go through right from the basics all the way through to worded problems, using geometry, using a combination of those to work out equations in more practical contexts as well. So my lesson would be as if I were in the classroom. So you've got classwork in the top left-hand corner, you've got the date in the top right-hand corner, and a nice starter to get started with. So just to get back into some algebra, I've put down a few questions for you to have a go at. So for example, with our first question, let me get my pen out like so. So I've got y plus y plus y. Well, how many y is that? Well, that's going to be 3y. So I've even done the first starter for you as well. And let me take one other question as well. So let's go to some expanding brackets like down here. So remember, when we expand brackets, we use the hook. So 1, 2. I call it the hook because it looks like kind of a hook here. And we multiply, remember. So 7 times x gives you 7x. And 7 times minus 4 is minus 28. So I'll give you 5 minutes on this. So complete the starter, and in 5 minutes time, so pause the video, I will then give you the answers. Pause the video, give yourself 5 minutes, and I'll show you the answers. Okay, so let me give you the answers here. One you might be slightly confused about, get my pen out, is this question here. So just to remind you, if you're timesing letters together, so if I do y times y, well, that will be equal to y squared. So it makes sense that if I do y times y times y, I then get y cubed. And if I did y times y times y times y, I then get to y to the power of 4. So y with a small 4. And this part I highlighted in red. Just remember, 2 minuses, when you multiply them together, give you a plus. So if I go back to the previous question, like so. That should be a minus 6. So that should be a minus there. So minus 2 times plus 3. Found a mistake already. So this should actually be minus 6. Let me correct that now. So this actually should be minus 6 because minus 2 times plus 3 is equal to minus 6. Hopefully you found the error on purpose. Excellent. Okay. So let's move on to our first step. So our first step with any equation is that we should be able to solve any simple equation by just looking at them. So let's take the first 2 questions. So we're going to do x plus 4 is equal to 9 as an example, and y plus 7 is equal to 16. So we'll do those 2 as examples. So I'm going to get myself a clear page, like so. So get my pen out. So we'll put examples, which you should be writing as well, like so. So question 1, our example was x plus 4 is equal to 9. And the way to think about it by just looking is something plus 4 is equal to 9. So what something could you add 4 to get to 9? Have a think. Okay, hopefully we all got the answer of 5. Remember, 5 plus 4 is equal to 9, so our something is 5. So this is our first step in solving equations. Sometimes we can just look at them and then work out what it is. Just to go through that again, so something plus 4 is 9. What is that something? It has to be 5, because 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. And these kind of equations we can do by just looking. So our next equation is y plus 7 is equal to 16. We do that in the same way. So have a think. Something plus 7 is equal to 16. What is that something? Okay, so hopefully you got the answer of y equals 9. Another way of thinking about it, we start with 7. What do I need to count on or add on to get to 16? Well, let's go through. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then if you can see, we get 9. So y is 9. So you can use a count on method if you find that a bit easier. Perfect. So let's go back to our questions, like so. So I'll give you about 5-10 minutes. Have a go at these questions. Of course, we've already done question 1 and question 2. So answer questions 3 to 15. Notice here we've got some timesing and we've got some dividing. And I have a challenge question there for you as well to consider. So 5-10 minutes. Have a go at those questions now. Okay, hopefully you got the answers underneath. So let me go through some of these questions that you've just done there. So let me take question 7 as an example. So the answer was D is 13. So I need to think something, take away 3 is equal to 10. So what do I take away? What do I take away from minus 3 to give me 10? So 13, because 13 minus 3 is equal to 10. Notice in question 8 here, so the answer here was 6. And I need to think here, remember, this means the same as 3 times z is equal to 18. Remember, if the number and the letter are written next to each other, it means a multiply. So then I need to think, okay, what multiplied by 3 gives me 18? And then we see the answer is 6. It's using our times tables. Very important. And if we take question 14 here, let's use that as another example. So again, the answer here was 12. Let me just show you there. I need to think in the same way. So something divided by 2 is equal to 6. Well, that has to be 12, because 12 divided by 2 is equal to 6. And we get our answer like so. So if I look at our challenge question, we're going to do this as a kind of mixture of what we did in the starter as well. Well, let's think 2 times something is equal to minus 30. Well, if it was just 30, then 2 times 15 gives me 30. However, I've got a minus here, so I need a minus 15, because a minus times a plus gives me a minus, using all those negative number rules that we do throughout year 7. Very, very important, and you can see why they're important in algebra as well. Number and algebra aren't separate topics. They do merge. You use skills from algebra in number and skills in number in algebra, and that becomes more and more important the older you get and the more mathematics you get as well. Okay, so that's our step 1 completed. Okay, so about halfway through our lesson. And so now we're going to focus on step 2. So let's move on to step 2. So that's our first step. We need to be able to solve equations by looking and counting on or counting back. Now we need to understand and apply a method to solving equations. Now, many different methods online. In Germany, you do something called the Kommandostrich. I tend to use arrows on both sides. Some traditional teachers would circle it and put it on the other side and switch the sign. That's what I used to do at school, for example. So there are many different ways and approaches that we can take. I'm going to do what I do standard. It's not the only way. But we need a clear method. This is the key point. So even if one moment to write those questions down. So even if you don't use my method, you need to show a clear method. Doing it in your head is not good enough for step 2. So let's do our examples. So let's get my pen out again and let's do some examples. It's quite fun writing with a computer. So number 1, we are going to do 3x plus 1 is equal to 13. So we'll do that first. And we could use a similar method to what we did. So what number multiplied by 3 and then add 1 gives you 13. But you can see it gets more complicated at this point. So we need to look for a different kind of method. Okay, so let me use a different colour. This will be fun. Let's use green. So first of all, we need to work in reverse. This is the key idea. So what we have in front of us, we need to work backwards, essentially through BIDMAS as well. So first of all, we look at the plus 1. What's the opposite of plus 1? Well, that's going to be minus 1. So we are going to minus 1 from both sides. So we look what's here. We ignore the 3 for the moment because we're working reverse BIDMAS. So we do adding, subtracting first, then multiplying, dividing, and then any brackets. So if we minus 1 from both sides, right, let's have a think. It's like scales, so we have to do the same to both sides. This minus 1 cancels with this plus 1. So that leaves us then, change my colour again, with just 3x. This is the point of minusing 1. These two things cancel. But whatever we do to the left-hand side, we must do to the right-hand side. So 13 minus 1, well, that's going to give us 12. Now at this point, I would like to keep using the method, so when we do more complicated examples, we can actually see exactly what's going on. Though you could do this part in your head. So let's have a think. So we've got 3x, well that means 3 times x. So what's the opposite of timesing by 3? Give you 5 seconds to think. Okay, hopefully you said divide by 3. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide by 3 on both sides. Now these 3's cancel. That's the point of doing this operation. So we're left with, get my red pen, just x. And then we do 12 divided by 3. And that gives us the answer of 4. And we're done. This is why these are called two-step equations, because there's one step and two step. And as we go into part 2 and part 3, you'll start seeing 3-step or even 4-step equations. But it's all about working reverse BIDMAS, working through logically, having a method. That's really, really important. Okay. So let's do my second example from the exercise. So number 2, we have 5a minus 3 is equal to 27. Like so. Now again, we approach it in exactly the same way we did our last question. So have a think for 5 seconds. What do you think our first step is? Look at example 1. Well, we look at this minus 3 and we want to do the opposite of minus 3, which hopefully you all got, is going to be adding 3 on both sides. Remember, you do the opposite and you start with the number out here, not the number in front of the a. The coefficient is the proper word we use. So if we add 3 on both sides, this cancels with this, and so we're left with just 5a. Okay, but remember we do the same to both sides. So 27 plus 3 is equal to 30. And then we have a similar step to what we did here. So last time we divided by 3. So this time here we divide by 5 because we have a 5 here. So we do divide by 5. We do the same to both sides. Do not forget, it's an equation. It's all about balance. You must do the same to both sides. This 5 cancels with this 5 here. So that will give us just a. Remember, the letter is just a variable. If it's x or a, it doesn't matter. And 30 divided by 5, well, that will be equal to 6. And we've got our answer there. Okay, so if that's quite a big step from step 1 to step 2, by all means, rewind the video, watch again, go through it nice and carefully until you understand the process behind it. Because this method we are going to use pretty much throughout in this video, but also in subsequent videos as well. So make sure you really understand those 2 examples I have just done there. Okay, so let's go back to the questions. So let's move back to where we are. So I've done question 1, question 2 for you. So this one here and this one here. So I'd like you to have a go at these questions. This will take you a bit longer. Please show your method. I cannot overstate this. Please show your method. Make sure there is a clear method. When you get to year 9, year 10, you are going to need these methods and you need to do this almost automatically. So good habits now make good habits in the future as well. Of course, there is a challenge question for you, so have a think about that as well. This should take you roughly 15 minutes or so if you show your clear method, and I'll go through some of these questions. Okay, so let me give you the answers. Oh, don't want a dot. There we are. Let's give you the answers. So there's the answers there. So make sure you go through your work and mark it nice and carefully. I just want to talk about a couple of these questions before I finish the video for today. So let's talk about, you can see that and obviously rewind if you want to see these answers. Let's talk about question 7 first of all. So let's get the pen. So let's do this question here. Now what you'll notice about this question is the m is written on the right hand side and not on the left. But we still approach it in exactly the same way. So let me go through this one. So here, for example, we want to look at this number here next to the m. So we think, we have plus 4. Okay, well, what's the opposite of plus 4? Well, we minus 4 from both sides. So don't let the order, the flipping, puts you off in any way, shape or form. So this cancels with this. So then we are left with just 5m here. On this side, 44 minus 4 is going to be equal to 40. And then We look at the number in front of the m, that's always important. What's the opposite of timesing by 5? Well, that's going to be dividing by 5. So we divide 5 on both sides of the equation. And you'll notice we get a very similar answer to my examples. So we get, well, this cancels with this. So we get m, and 40 divided by 5 is 8. The only thing is, it says 8 equals m. Well, basically that means the same as m equals 8. It's an equal sign. The two things are the same. Yeah? In German you say gleich, it literally means same. Yeah? So 8 equals m equals 8. So you can always, right at the end, you can always flip the equation because the two things are equal to each other. So just be aware of that for question 7. Okay, and let's look at question 14. Like so. There's just a point I want to make from that. So I'll go through the first steps quite quickly. So 14d minus 20 is equal to 50. Again, we approach this in exactly the same way as what we've done before. So what's the opposite of minus 20? Well, that's going to be plus 20. There's not much room, so I'm just putting the plus above, just so it all fits in. So if we do that, this cancels with this. So we then get 14d. And then this side, 50 plus 20 is equal to 70. And so when you get to this point, we approach it in the same way. But this is more a test of your times tables more than anything else. So what's the opposite of timesing by 14? Well, we are going to divide by 14. We do the same to both sides. Okay, this cancels with this, so this is the easy side, so to speak. So let's, oh, not blue, nice colour blue, but let's use a different one. Let's use red, consistent. So d equals, and now we have to work out what 70 divided by 14 is. Now, probably the easiest way of doing this kind of question, if you don't have a calculator, is write down your multiples of 14. That means the 14 times table. So let's go. So we've got 14, then 14 plus 14. Well, that's going to be 28. A bit of mental maths here. So 28 plus 14, well, that's going to be 42. 42 plus 14, well, that's going to be 56. And then lastly, 56 plus 14 gives you 70. And I'm going to use blue now because I've had blue ready for ages. Okay, and let's have a look. So this is our first multiple, second multiple, third multiple, fourth multiple, and fifth multiple. So this is the answer that we want because we've got 70. So D is going to be equal to 5. So sometimes if you don't know your 14 times table, I kind of do, but yeah, that's the kind of thing I do in my free time, then you can always write out the multiples of that number until you get to the answer. Now the challenge question I am going to leave until my part 2 video. Just to tell you the answer is going to be 14 times 6, so that's going to give us 84. So R should be equal to 84. No, wait a minute. 7 plus 2 is 9. So 54. Let me write you the answer. So R is equal to 54. And in my next video, I'm going to explain exactly why that is 54. So that's our lesson for today, part 1. In part 2, I'm going to go through steps 3 and steps 4. If you get stuck on any part of that video, please rewind, go back, go through my explanation, and retry the questions. Okay, that's a really important tool. Okay, so Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye for now. I'll keep this.